Cricbuzz chatter at the end of day one. Did I just say at the end of day one? Well, did we get a day one? For practical purposes, we did. Luckily, we've got a reserve there. And luckily, we've got someone who...
Cricbuzz chatter. And, yeah, I think Harsh is just frozen, I think, there for a moment. So, look, it's a sad end to what was to be day number one of the World Test Championship Final here in Southampton. Harsha and I will be bringing you all the action on Cricbuzz chatter throughout the next 5, or shall we say 6 days from now on, which is going to be, hopefully we're going to get some cricket in. I'm looking out my window now. I'm just going to have a little look out the window. It's still raining. The covers are on. The umpires are walking across the ground, just checking with the ground staff as to what could possibly take place, how many hours. We're going to have a 98 over day tomorrow now here. Both teams were keen, but what we did see, I think Harsha's back with us now. What we did see, Harsha, today is we saw the New Zealand players just gathering, having coffee, playing some cards. The Indian players just milling around with their team, with some of their families who are here as well. And just, I won't say enjoying a day off, because they were all desperately looking forward to what was supposed to take place today. Weather, unfortunately, has won the day. Oh, sorry, still no Harsha, sadly. Look, I think what we are looking forward to now, and over the next 4 or 5 days at least, starting tomorrow, there's some better weather coming. That's one thing I can tell you. There is some better weather coming. The forecasters have said that Saturday looks a lot better than today looked, than Friday looked here in Southampton. Let's hope we get that window. The rain is supposed to be here throughout the night. It'll take a job, I think, for the ground staff to get this sorted by maybe 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And with a bit of luck, we might get some cricket in on Saturday local time and see the start to this World Test Championship Final. I don't think this has happened too often in the past. 3 or 4 times that sides have managed to change their teams after they have named their team initially. But I would have no issues or no surprise whatsoever, Harsha, if you're back with us, that India could possibly make that change. They could possibly go with Siraj over, I'm thinking, Jadeja, and keep Ashwin in the side. I don't know where you would sit on that.
In fact, Simon, I was going to lead you into the hot spot there, but being the consummate broadcaster that you are, you knew exactly where we were headed. I'm going to ask you that, but first tell me, how difficult was the long trek back from the ground to the hotel?
It was tough, Harsha. Look, it increased. What it did today was it increased my step count, I can tell you, from 4,877 to 4,886, walking from the commentary box to my hotel room.
Well, that's the reason. I mean, the reason I brought that up was that's the reason that we are actually having the game there, because there's a hotel attached for reasons of quarantine, etc. But let's come back to today's game. Such a big loss that everyone is looking forward to it. But that's the reason we've got a reserve day. Let me come back to the hot spot that Simon was talking about. Now, as Simon, you said a little while ago, not often the teams make changes after they're announced, but there hasn't been a toss yet. So teams can get changed. The question is, if the center surface is still as it was, then if there is a chance that it could dry up as the game goes along, then 2 spinners come in. But Simon, the key thing from India's point of view is the 2 spin bowlers are not just spin bowlers, they also lengthen the batting. If India decide to go in with Siraj for one of the spinners, then I guess batting ends at number 7 really. So what would you do if you're in that situation? Play 4 seamers, or would you say 3 is good enough and play 2 spinners?
I think a lot of it, Harsha, depends on the time of the game, the time we actually get underway. If it is tomorrow, if it's first thing tomorrow morning, I would probably stick with the same side from an Indian point of view, because there's still a possibility of 5 full days of cricket, a couple of days of sunshine, and the spinners will definitely come into the game. They don't, I mean, the type of spinners, Jadeja and Ashwin, that don't necessarily need the surface to be assisting them a whole lot. Jadeja's arm ball skidding on brings the LBW into play, brings the outside edge of the left-handers into play. So they're skillful enough bowlers without having a surface that is ragging, square. But if the game is slightly shortened, and let's say we get part of tomorrow washed out as well, and we're not starting till 3 or 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, then the shortened nature of the game doesn't bring the spinners into play as much. And I think then I would possibly look at going for that extra seam bowler for the seaming conditions. Yes, you probably want to win the toss. You can't guarantee that. But I just think that maybe they could bring Mohammad Siraj into the side if the game didn't get underway or the toss didn't take place until later tomorrow afternoon.
What were New Zealand planning to do? Because it's a nice problem to have. You could pick any of 5 seamers plus Colin de Grandhomme, who just comes in, releases the ball and bowls 15 overs for 30 most days. Plus he adds to the batting. So what do you think New Zealand would have done? Because there's 4 of those who are good enough to get into most sides in the world, and the 5th was player of the match in the last Test match.
Yeah, I look, it was a really tough decision, and they're great decisions to have, I suppose. The hard ones when you have to leave guys out. If you're looking for guys to fill up the numbers, those are the decisions you don't want as a coach or as a captain. But from what I understand, New Zealand might have been looking to play Ajaz Patel, to play Colin de Grandhomme, and to play Tim Southee, Trent Boult, and Kyle Jamieson, and leave Neil Wagner out, which would have been an enormous call, but it was probably a call, given 5 days of decent weather, they had to make by virtue of Ajaz Patel bowling so well in Birmingham and needing a spinner, because the surface does, over the course, as we've seen, of 4 and 5 days, it does produce some turn. They're in the same boat now, though, I think, where they might not need that spinner if we don't get going till late Saturday afternoon, late on day 2, and we get a slightly shortened Test match with green conditions, slightly seam-friendly conditions. I think de Grandhomme becomes a big player then, and perhaps spin just goes out the window a little bit more, and you end up with your best 5 bowlers, guys who have done the job for you time and time again. Wagner, Boult, Southee, new kid on the block in Jamieson, and Colin de Grandhomme, just to dot up an end and maybe move the ball around a touch. I think if we are looking at a 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock start tomorrow, that's probably what New Zealand will do, end up with 5 seamers.
The good thing for New Zealand, though, is that Jamieson is perfectly capable of batting at 8, Southee perfectly capable of batting at 9. So the choice becomes a little easier from the batting point of view, though. I mean, you pick your best bowlers, but sometimes you look at what they can do with the bat. Now, we've lost 1 day, but in effect, we probably haven't lost anything yet, which is the good thing, given that this is the final of the World Test Championship. So we can get into fast forward. Now, normally, Simon Doull does the toss. Sometimes he doesn't let the coin fall. He grabs the coin if they're too quick about it. But Simon, I'm going to put you on the other side. I'm doing the toss, and you are the person I'm interviewing. Ladies and gentlemen, Simon Doull at the toss. You won the toss. What are you doing? Batting, bowling, given the conditions?
We're going to have a bowl. We're going to have a bowl, Harsha. Overhead conditions, slightly damp in the last couple of days, and a little bit of moisture in the surface. We feel that the Indian top order will be quite vulnerable to the swing and the seam, and so we're going to have a bowl first. And probably, I would say, in the next half hour, you'll see 3 Indian wickets fall.
I didn't ask you that. I knew you were going to get there. Okay, we'll change it now. And now with me is Simon Doull from Chennai, captaining India today. Doull, you won the toss. What are you going to do?
We're going to have a bowl, Harsha, because I think that Bumrah and Ishant and Mohammad Siraj can certainly exploit these conditions. We feel with the left-handers at the top of the New Zealand order, Kane Williamson's form overseas, he's been struggling a little bit, so we feel that we can have New Zealand 3 down in no time and really expose that middle order and get into those bowlers nice and early.
There used to be actors in the past who would make up half their faces men and half their faces women. You've got half of New Zealand, half of India. Okay, before we end today, we saw a few pictures of players walking on the outfield and there was splashing. There was water all around. By the end of the day, I suspect a lot of that had gone away, which tells you that the drainage is very good. And so if it doesn't rain too much through the night, we could actually get a decent amount of cricket tomorrow.
Yeah, the ground staff have told us that it's about 3 hours to completely clear the ground once the rain stops. Super soppers, covers off, everything's sorted, and basically the drainage will do its job and take place. But it's around about 3 hours. The issue we've got, Harsha, is that the overnight forecast is pretty ordinary, to say the least. There is a lot more rain coming. And so if it does rain all night and the ground staff can't get out on that ground till sort of 8:39, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, then you're looking at a good 3 hours. And that 3 hours really only starts when it stops raining. So when there is absolutely no rain, that 3 hours can possibly start. So we would, to get underway on time, we'd probably need that rain to stop around about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. If it does, that's fine. Ground staff will get into their work nice and early. If it doesn't, then we can sort of work on that time period.
Yeah, just to remind you, there'll be 98 overs per day, and we'll wait and see if the 98 get bowled. You can add on any time that is lost. If there's any additional rain, you can add on that time. And Simon, it's right, on the sixth day, you only add on the time that is lost. You don't have the whole sixth day available. You only add on the time that's lost, right?
Yeah, if we lose, let's say we lose 35 overs throughout the test match, courtesy of not getting through the overs or overs lost due to weather, then those 35 overs can be played on day number 6. It's around trying to get in the full 5 days of 90 over cricket, 450 overs, and trying to get, you know, a full test match number of overs in. And that's the key. And if at that stage it's still a draw, shared trophy.
I mean, the draw is a valid result in a test match. That's what Campbell Jameson said. So draw is perfectly respectable decision. One last thing before we let Simon go away for his cup of coffee and sit in the balcony watching the ground staff do their work. You know, in that World Cup final, the events seem to conspire against New Zealand. Do you sense that the events are just starting to conspire for New Zealand? With this weather, do New Zealand have a little extra edge to them over India?
Is this the sort of the karma coming back and coming round New Zealand's way? Perhaps, I don't know. I've been reading online, and you know, there's so much social media chat around this, and I'm sure, you know, so many of our friends at Cricbuzz have been in it. People on Twitter and on different forms of social media as well, and saying, well, this is India's time for a bit of revenge after the weather sort of played its part in the semi-final, and people talking about, well, it's New Zealand's time. I don't know. The one thing I will say, Harsha, I think if we went back 25 years, you would say that you know, New Zealand's seam attack would generally have an edge on as a whole on India's seam attack. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that the Indian seamers are equally as good in these sorts of conditions as the New Zealand seamers. If they went 4 seamers, if they went for, you know, Bumrah, Ishant, Shami and Siraj, and you saw those 4 up against the Bolt, Southey, Jameson and Wagner, I think that's a mouth-watering contest. You know, there's no winner in that instance for me, because they're 8 terrific bowlers, and so I don't see a distinct advantage either way as far as the seamers are concerned. And I hope that the toss doesn't play such a crucial role. I don't think it will, because I believe that if it's a little bit green and a little bit spicy, it will be a little green and spicy for the first couple of days. And that brings both teams into play.
Okay, there you are. It's always wonderful to have your man there on the spot. So thank you very much to Simon Doull, and we will chat with you tomorrow. I'm being optimistic. It's a final of the World Test Championship. You want play to take place. So I'm hoping we do get proper cricket match, and that at the end we'll have a result. And I promise Simon and me will be very friendly about whatever the result. Thank you very much.
Always. Always.
Take care and goodbye.